Welcome back to Say No More Media, and we got Shedeur Sanders entering to the mandatory camp for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm telling you right now, in the AFC North, where you have Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, we're talking about franchise quarterbacks, popularity. I don't care what you're talking about. NFL fans come to the games to see the quarterback, the offense, and if you have a stellar defense, roll it out. But when you are talking about an organization in the Cleveland Browns and you're trying to keep up in a star-studded division like the AFC North with Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and the late, great Aaron Rodgers, despite what he's on, nowadays in 2025, what are we doing here? Salute to Joe Flacco. I have nothing bad to say. Senior vet, won a Super Bowl. Cool, but it's quiet after that. Deshaun Watson, will he ever get back to what we knew he was coming out of college in his first couple years in the league? We don't know. But right now, he's starting the season on IR, due to his injuries or whatever. Dylan Gabriel, third-round pick, coming out of Oregon. He's going to have his opportunities in preseason as well as the season to show what he has. No disrespect there. But what are we talking about here when we're talking about franchise quarterbacks, and we're talking about people who are going to put butts in the seats, and not only the marketability, but what he's been able to do with no offensive line at Colorado? We have to understand the numbers that Shedeur Sanders was able to do. He had possibly the worst offensive line in the FBS in college football. How many times he was sacked, was crazy, and he still was able to stand in there, deliver, and have one of the highest percentages in 2 seasons in the college football history. Now, what he's been able to do in camp, as you just seen in some of the videos, he's been productive, with limited snaps, but he's been taking opportunities. He's been first in the meeting rooms. Everything that was said about who he was as a person, his ego, his character has been debunked. At this point, when do we just talk about football and what he's able to do on the field? Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We've seen, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round picks. For example, Tom Brady, somebody who went late in the draft, step in and become into their greatness and who they're supposed to be. Now, we're past the draft. We're past them slipping in the draft. We're past rookie minicamp. We're past OTAs. Now is where the bread and butter is made in the official NFL mandatory camp. And as you can see here, Shedeur Sanders has been prepping not only in this time off, but also as a quarterback, you have to be mentally strong. And that's something that Shedeur Sanders has always had. Mentally strong, physically strong, mentally tough. Call that, from his pops, whatever you want to say. But this isn't going to break him as I can see. He's going to get his opportunity, especially in preseason. He's going to have to capitalize on those opportunities. He's going to have to capitalize on being able to control the locker room, gain the respect of the veterans and the rookies, and continue to be a positive influence in the Cleveland Brown community as well as the locker room that he's already shown that he's done. Listen, the work that he's putting in, he's a first-round talent that's on a roster that has 4 quarterbacks. And I can't really look around the league and see how many other organizations are rolling with 4 to 5 quarterbacks on the depth chart. You have your starter who you believe in, number 1, then everybody else is competing for the number 2 and the number 3 spot. But we've seen the position that he's been placed in. But we all know that when mandatory minicamp is here, as far as preseason that's approaching, that's when I feel like you're going to see the best Shedeur Sanders. And yeah, let the best quarterback win. By far, am I not saying that anything should be handed to Shedeur Sanders, as I don't believe that's what the NFL is about. I don't believe that's what the Cleveland Browns organization is about. And as I just mentioned before, in the AFC North, you are possibly talking about the AFC champion coming out of the AFC North. There is a very strong Billy outside of the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West and, the Buffalo Bills that, we're talking about, the AFC North representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. And I'm going to say this to say this, we're going to have to put points on the board as far as offensively. We know what Jerry Jeudy has done. We know what Njoku has done at the tight end position. We have multiple running backs returning forward. The offensive line is stellar. We don't even have to talk about the defense with Myles Garrett over there. Him just getting his max contract. Denzel Ward at cornerback. The defense is going to do their thing, and they're going to have to in order to compete. But what I see happening is preseason, we're going to see a good amount. I do see Joe Flacco being the day one starter, and rightfully so. He's here to compete. He's competing for a job, and he's also, one of the seasoned veterans. Now, do we do what, Kansas City did with Patrick Mahomes, what Green Bay did with Aaron Rodgers? Let him sit for a year. Let him soak up the game. Sometimes we are rushing rookie quarterbacks into situations that they do not need to be in. Look when Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith. Look when Aaron Rodgers sat for a year behind Brett Favre, and see how when they were able to master the playbook, learn the schemes, and was able to dissect everything in the NFL, how that worked for them. Sometimes throwing a rookie quarterback, a.k.a. RG3, a.k.a. some of the situations that haven't worked out for rookie quarterbacks being thrown into the fire. We got Johnny Manziel, who was thrown in the fire for the Cleveland Browns. It doesn't always work. So I believe, truthfully, that if we want the best career for Shedeur, we let him sit for a year, learn the playbook, let him soak up the game. We already know the notoriety and the attention he's going to bring to the Cleveland Browns locker room. And Brett Favre had to do the same thing. Brett Favre was sitting in Atlanta. He was sitting in Atlanta before he got traded over to the Green Bay Packers. Some of the greatest quarterbacks that we've seen didn't get the playing time right away. And I want everybody to understand that for a quarterback position, that is you get the most scrutiny, you get the most criticized, and you have the most pressure on you as a quarterback. And sometimes being thrown right into the fire is not something that's needed for a rookie quarterback. What he's going to be able to do as far as jersey sales, attention, and the await, everybody excited about put Shedeur in. You're going to hear put Shedeur in. You're going to hear we want Shedeur, and it's up to the NFL. It's up to the Cleveland Browns ownership to say, okay, this is where we're going to need Shedeur to step in and save this franchise. And honestly, with him being a 5th-round pick, you're already getting him on a bargain deal. Well, he's already going to play himself into a max contract, whether it's in Cleveland or not in Cleveland. But he's been accepted wholeheartedly by the community of Cleveland. We've seen him out there, supporting the communities out there, some disasters that have struck out in community. He's being the ultimate professional. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about Shedeur Sanders. I personally think he should sit for a year, but tap in.